Story 1. Am I the a-hole for losing my passport to avoid babysitting on my vacation? I, 17 female, still live at home. My sister, 28, is married and has 2 kids, 5 and 3. Whenever she comes over to visit my parents, she sticks me with the kids. This wouldn't be a problem except she doesn't visit for an evening. She'll come for a week, and for that week, I'm an unpaid nanny. If we go out to a restaurant, I have to entertain them because my mom needs to talk to my sister and brother-in-law. You get the picture. My parents decided that since this was my last summer before I became an adult, we would be going to Disneyland to celebrate my graduation. I asked who was going, and they said it was just the 3 of us. But when we got to the airport, my sister and her family were there. Strangely enough, they were also going to Disneyland. I went into my backpack and grabbed my passport. I put it in my sock. When we got to the International Security Office, I couldn't find it. We looked everywhere. I had to Uber home and I missed my flight. Oh well, I get to stay home by myself for a week of peace and quiet. My parents were very mad at me for losing my passport. The money they spent on my flight and entrance was wasted. Darn. My mom and sister have both been posting about how hard it is to be at Disneyland with 2 little ones. They both posted that I ruined the vacation by being so thoughtless. My dad said he knows why I did, and he understands. But he says I should have let him know so he didn't waste money. He said he would have gone along with my ruse. I felt bad about wasting money, but I have been to Disneyland before, and I will go again later by myself or with friends. I mean, it sounds like your sister and your mom are the a-holes, because you absolutely are not. And good on your dad for at least being like, look, I get it. He sounds just kind of done with crap. But also, you couldn't have let him know ahead of time because they sprung this on you. Like, all of a sudden, your sister there, and it's like, surprise, you're going to be a babysitter for a week. And the fact that they're, like, blaming it on you for them having what? Oh, my God. Gross. I'm so sick of, like, older siblings using younger siblings as, like, de facto always babysitters for nothing. No, don't do that. Don't, like, if they want to help out and watch your kids for you, sure, that's great. That's what family's for. I've watched my sister's kids once, maybe twice. I don't know. But you can't just expect that, and especially not for weeks at a time. Oh, no. I'm glad you got your week home alone. Save up some money and enjoy Disneyland when you go with people who actually respect you. Story 2. Revenge on my abusive mother. She never knew it was me responsible for the clink. This happened in 2004 when I was 14. A bit of backstory before I begin. My mother is not a good person. She was abusive verbally for most of my life until I was 14 when her abuse turned physical. Because of her abuse, I came up with creative ways to punish her in my own pretty ways, like tampering with her food and dunking her toothbrush in the toilet every day. This story is one of my better petty revenges towards her and the one that annoyed her the most. I talked to my friends about the things she did to me, and although I appreciated the advice to go to the police, I knew that wouldn't work. My mother is very convincing when she wants to be, and every other time I went to the police, they never believed me. One of my friends, who we'll call Tom, gave me a brilliant idea that would annoy her to no end, but wouldn't get me in trouble. His dad is a mechanic, so Tom knows his way around a car. After school that day, I went with him to his house. He showed me a place underneath the car between the top of the front wheel and the side of the engine and told me what to do. Bring on the pettiness. I had to wait a few days to enact my revenge, but the day finally arrived. My mother and my sister left the house to ride their horses, which gave me plenty of time to do what needed to be done. The next day, I went with my mom and sister to do grocery shopping, and I was elated to hear the product of my labor as the car started to drive down the driveway. Clink! 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 Yes, dear readers, I attached a rock to the end of a string inside the car that made a loud clunk sound every few seconds when the car was moving. Mom, what the heck is that? Me. No idea. Maybe you should get the mechanic to have a look at it. I remember how I said that Tom's dad is a mechanic? Well, he's the only mechanic in town we lived with, and Tom made sure to tell his dad about the thing my mother did to me. Needless to say, he was on my side. So after we'd done our shopping, we stopped at the mechanic so they could look at it and fix whatever needed fixing. Mom, as we arrived at the mechanic, "Hi there, well, my car's making a weird noise when I'm driving. Can you look at it for me?" Mechanic, Sure thing, how about you take a seat inside and I'll give it a drive and see what the problem is. He got in the car and drove it around the block. When he returned, the noise had miraculously stopped. He charged my mom for the check, and we were on our way, but not before Tom's dad subtly handed me the rock back and gave me a wink and a smile as I left. That night I put the rock back in place and left it to do its thing for the next day, and oh boy was this satisfying. The next day the noise was back, so Mom went back to the mechanic, but this time the mechanic couldn't find anything wrong with it and couldn't hear any noise. I never bothered taking the rock out after that, and neither did the mechanic. He experienced her entitlement firsthand and had heard many stories from other people around town about her. The rock wasn't damaging the car or affecting its performance, so there was nothing that needed fixing. I moved away to live with my dad when I was 16, but before I moved, the clink was still there, tormenting my mother every time she drove the car. I lost count of the number of times she took it back to the mechanic and the amount of money she spent on getting rid of the clink. The last time I saw my mother, I was 23, and she still had the same car. I'd expected the rock to have fallen out by then, but the car still had a clink, but not as loud. Well, I'm sorry that this person had to stick with an abusive mother for even that long, and, hey, good on you for whatever petty revenge you might call it, though I would say that it's not petty at all. It's, you doing what you could to mentally survive the trauma of living with a person like that. And, I don't know how exactly you make that happen, and I probably shouldn't do any digging to find out because that's not information to give everyone on the internet, but I'm glad you had that information, and I'm glad that it could mess with your mom a bit, because as much as I think that she probably needs some therapy and some help and needs to better herself, with whatever she was doing to you, I think a clinking of the car is the least of what she deserved. Story 3. Scream at me to use my air? Yeah, right. I was at a gas station putting air in my tire. This gas station required you to pay $1, but came with a pressure gauge. The gas station across the street had free air, but no gauge. As I'm filling my tires, a lady pulls up beside me and starts asking questions like how much it was to use, how much time, etc. I asked her questions as best I could, but really was more focused on filling my tire since there was a time limit. My car has annoying warning lights that let you know if a tire is low, even the spare, and I hate when these sensors are lit up. The lady is still waiting there and is getting visibly annoyed. This lady yells out, "Will you hurry up? I'm in a rush." I was confused for a second, but quickly realized that she just wanted to use my time without paying. I did what any gentleman would do and proceeded to move slower. I pulled out of the spot and into a gas pump. She almost hit my car, swooping into where my car was. She jumps out, and as she puts the air pump to her tire, it shuts off. I guess I was smiling way too big, because as she jumped into her car and sped off, she yells, "F you!" at me. I was so pleased with how it all timed out, I didn't even care. Such a great moment. Do you know a way that you maybe could have gotten to use that air that might have, saved you all the trouble and just trying to, rush someone along and being rude and impatient? Maybe if you just let this person know that you didn't have the dollar for the air, and you said, "Hey, if you finish up quick enough, is there any way that I could hop on and use it before it times out? I'm really desperate to fill up a tire or something." It's all you have to do. Folks, I don't know how many problems could be solved with just communicating politely. There's so many. Not every problem. Obviously, there's some real buttholes in the world. Yeah, but there are so many problems that absolutely could have been solved by just being a nice, polite, honest person. But people never seem to want to do that. They've always got to scheme or just be mean, and they get what they get. Story 4. Use my email, lose your Kohl's cash. I got a Gmail account about 20 years ago when it first came out. I was able to snag a simple email, first initial, last name. Think jsmith@gmail. For the last several years, I've been getting all kinds of spam and legitimate emails from someone with my first initial and last name. Some of these emails seem pretty important. For instance, hotel reservations and train tickets have both been sent to my email. In the past, I've tried to contact her with the phone number I found with the emails and asked her to stop using my emails. She brushes it off every time, basically telling me to F off. Apparently, she's just started shopping at Kohl's because I've been getting all of her rewards emails. Since she decided she isn't going to stop using my email, I used her $50 in Kohl's cash she sent to my email a couple weeks ago, and just use another $20 today. As far as I'm concerned, she's aware that she's using my email, therefore she's gifting me her Kohl's cash. Thanks for the new belt and jeans, Jessica. Keep 'em coming. How does this work? Like, you're getting this person's train tickets and stuff like that? Like, things that I would assume that she would need access to that email in order to utilize. So, like, why when you call her and you're like, hey, I'm getting, like, your tickets and stuff and hotel reservations at my email, why wouldn't she be like, oh my gosh, I must be giving them the wrong email. How silly of me. I would like to have those things. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. This is ridiculous. I mean ridiculous to the point where I have trouble believing that this is true. This feels like a sort of half-developed plot for a movie I don't think I care about. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.